Welcome to Indiana Basketball Weekly on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your co-host for the Indiana Basketball Weekly show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to welcome in 1981 national champion and member of the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, well, we're disappointed after tonight's effort, but we're getting along fine. We're marching somewhere, to say the least.
All right. Our other co-host tonight is Cole Hanna, who is the beat writer for Indiana Basketball at thegruelingtruth.net. How you doing, Cole?
Outside of that game, I'm doing good, but yeah, a lot to say about that, I guess.
All right, and Collin Hartman was at the game tonight. He cannot make it. His service was in and out, so we will, I guess, see him when we play Michigan State, which is not something that looks like we really want to do right now. But we look at the game. Indiana.
Well, no, Michigan State just lost one of their top. Michigan State just lost one of their top players. We may have a chance to only get beat by 20.
It's a step in the right direction.
The Hoosiers have now lost 7 straight games. They lose to Rutgers 66-58.
Mike, you're the Google expert. When's the last time Indiana lost 7 games in a row?
I don't know. Probably that year Tom Crean went like 5-23 or something.
I don't know if that team lost 7 games in a row.
There's a decent chance it happened then. All right, so let's just get started. All right, Cole.
And I got to tell you one thing. I got to say one thing. I've been to New York City 150 times in my life. I've never had bad reception in New York City, which is where Rutgers basically is.
I will say this. In Cole's defense, he has T-Mobile, remember?
You mean Cole or
Collin? In Collin's defense, he has T-Mobile. And I have T-Mobile, and I can't even get service at my own house.
That's fine, because I just got a phone call from an email from T-Mobile about 2 hours ago wanting to know if they could sponsor our show. I'll just tell them that because we claim they have shitty service, that we don't want them to sponsor us.
I am not.
Because nobody will be able to listen to us.
They do have shitty service.
Which might be a good thing tonight.
For that. Yeah. So, Cole, what stands out to you on the stat sheet? Because I see at least one glaring stat that stands out.
Yeah, first off, obviously offensively, 21 of 60 is tough. 6 of 23 from 3 is not much better. I thought foul trouble was a big thing in this game. You look at the starting 5, 4 of the 5 players had at least 4 fouls. Langford, Smith, and Morgan each had to go to the bench in the first half with 2 fouls. It just too many mistakes. Offensive rebounding killed them. They lost the rebounding battle, 45-32, 13 offensive rebounds to Rutgers. And they gave Rutgers second chance points. It's a tough game. Turnovers, they're under control. 11 turnovers, that's an acceptable number for them. It's just free throw shooting was solid, 10 of 13. But, there's just so many of this team's issues aren't on the stat sheet is the issue with this team.
Yeah. Steve, did you see anything positive tonight?
Well, I thought they came out, aggressive. I like that. But they were shooting with confidence early in the game. They were stepping in. They were stepping into their shots. They were getting good lift on their shots. They were squared up and taking their shots. There was some resolve early in the game, but it just seemed like the first time some adversity got thrown at them a little bit, the resolve started to go away again. Again, I'm not going to beat up the players. I'm not going to beat up the coaches. I'm going to beat up the team because I don't think they're playing as a team. I don't think it's any part of any one individual. I just think that they haven't united as a group of players who have this indomitable will to not get beat and to not lose games. They almost just accept losing. And, that's something that some other players have said on various radio shows or talk host shows or however we want to do this. But they just don't seem to have this indomitable will. Like, I hate going back to that 76 to 87 era. They're just the teams that just had resolve to not ever lose, not get beat. We found ways to win. Whatever the presented to us, and this team does not have the ability to find ways to win at this point in time. But it was a good start. I think that, so it tells me that Archie's having some impact on these kids because he's starting to make some headway with them, which is good. I just think now we're at a point where we're probably pretty close to run out of time.
Yeah. My takeaway was this. I thought the effort was there the whole game. I just don't think the execution is there. At the end of the game, you're down by 6. You get Anderson forces the jump ball. He also has a steal at one point, and they just missed the shots. And you know yourself, Steve, you can play as hard as you can, but if your shots don't fall, you're not going to win.
Well, no, I don't know that, Mike, because in my era, we found if we couldn't hit shots, we found other ways to beat teams.
Okay.
Well,
so
I mean, you want me to
30%. If you're shooting 30%, how are you going to win that game?
You play defense hard enough, you make other teams shoot 25%, Mike. That's what you do.
Yeah.
You sit there and say, you know what? If I'm shooting poorly tonight, I'm going to make the other team shoot worse than me. And that's what we did.
Yeah. And you did that
with
that's
Isaiah how we
Thomas.
won.
You did it with Isaiah Thomas, Mike Woodson. My whole point is this.
They've got Romeo Langford, the most lauded freshman in the history of IU basketball, coming of Isaiah Thomas.
Romeo Langford played all right tonight, but he's not Isaiah Thomas, Steve.
My whole damn family wants to come home at 6 o'clock at night.
Lock the doors.
But dogs.
I don't know. Cole, do you think too much is expected here from what people saw 30 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I understand. You want to get back to that. I mean, that should be everyone's goal. But, the Bob Knight era, I mean, that team was so dominant. You're not going to get there overnight. There's going to be a process to get there. And I think people probably need to be a little bit more patient, give Archie some time to get there, because you're not going to become that dominant overnight. All right,
what's our record now? Wait, hang on. What's our record now?
Was it 12-9?
12-9. Yeah.
12-9.
Yeah.
So we are 21 games into the Big Ten, into the season, and we aren't there yet. Okay, this is not about the 30 years ago era. This is about the mentality of figuring out how to win basketball games.
Steve, all I see is
it's not, Mike.
Older guys bitching on Facebook because this team has not been relevant. Indiana University has not been relevant in 15 years.
Because idiots like you want to throw names like Isaiah Thomas and Mike Woodson out there and not look at the principle of how the games are played. Look at what the New England Patriots are doing. They have resolved to win.
Yeah, they still got the same freaking coach,
personnel.
Steve. Well, let's see what happens when Josh McDaniels becomes the head coach of that football team. Because then it's different. Because the culture is different. And Archie Miller comes from a program in Dayton. I am not completely defending Archie Miller because we already know I thought Chris Mack was the guy for the job because I think Chris Mack is a guy and the way he coaches basketball, he is more built to win immediately because he imposes his will on his players. Archie Miller is not. Archie Miller, there's something to be said about building a culture. There has not been a culture built here since 2000. None at all. And so basically what you're doing is you're taking a house, building it on the dirt, and expecting with no foundation for it to all of a sudden be $1 million house that doesn't fall down. There is no basis for a foundation for this program for the last 20 years. This is a program that has not recruited the Trevon Blewitts. I mean, come on. A small Catholic school in Xavier that is playing in the Big Ten or playing in the Big East took Trevon Blewett. IU never got him. The best players are not going to Indiana. Sure, they got Romeo Langford. They got Demazi Anderson. Now, the thing is this. If they could get 2 or 3 of the top 5 or 6 players from the state of Indiana every year, 3 years from now, everybody's going to be saying how great of a coach Archie Miller is. And I can tell you this, I was pissed off enough. I know I made the comment to you that I'd fire his ass now after the last game. But when I sit here and look at this is a program that has been an average program for 2 decades. And now all of a sudden you want Archie Miller to come in and make them the 1976 Indiana Hoosiers. It doesn't work that way. And I don't know. I don't understand why everybody doesn't realize that. Because what you had tonight is you had Forrester, you had Mozzie Anderson, you had Clifton Moore, who all played more than what they had been, especially Anderson. And I can tell you this, Anderson's a freshman, and he made some plays defensively at the end of the game. He's not making any shots yet. He's not shooting with confidence, but that kid's going to be a good basketball player. Forrester and Moore should play more anyways. But what you've got now is you've got more guys playing than they ever have before. You've got guys that are basically in their first Big Ten games. You know, they don't have an Isaiah Thomas leading them. Hell, Romeo Langford's in his first games. You know, Isaiah Thomas didn't win the Big Ten championship his first year, did he, or did he? He might have. Did y'all win it that year?
What?
Okay. So,
I'm not even listening to you. I'm not even listening to you, really, because you're just pompousing. Go ahead.
I'm pompousing? How the fuck am I pompousing? Yeah. When you're sitting here, you fucking text a whole game how shitty this is, how disappointed you are. What do you expect? They've lost 6 straight games. They looked better to me tonight than they did the 6 games before that. I think this team had legitimate problems with guys that were already on this team before Archie Miller was ever here. You know, Devontae Green is not on this team right now. By something Devontae Green did. So what tells me that Devontae Green wasn't a cancer all along for this team? And you can sit there and blow off everything I say, and that's fine. Join the crowd that sits there and bitches about Archie Miller and bitches about how this isn't 1990 again. And that's horseshit. Because it's not 1990. He didn't walk into a program that was established. It's not established. Playing Indiana doesn't scare anybody anymore. Cole?
Yeah, I mean, and say what you want, Steve. I understand that, you know, that the angle you're coming from. And we can talk about, you know, what we think Archie is doing wrong, but it's the same thing with Mike. I don't think we're getting bad shots offensively. I mean, we're getting good shots. You just got to knock them down. I mean, this team is playing with no confidence at all. And, you know, yeah, you can say that's partly Archie Miller's fault, and I'll agree. But at the same time, a player missing an open shot.
I'm going to go on the record right now. I made no accusation against Archie. Wait, I made no accusation. I said at the beginning, I'm not blaming Archie Miller on this. I'm not blaming the individual players. I'm saying that there is not a team effort in this process.
Okay, so that's not the coach's fault or the player's fault.
Stop
Whose fault is it? The equipment manager?
I'm blaming Archie Miller.
No, okay.
Just finish your argument.
I don't understand how you can not blame the players or the coach. Whose fault is it then?
They aren't communicating. They aren't connecting together. They're all individual parts are great. They just haven't become a unit. And the individual parts in this thing are really good. I mean, we have talent. This is not a talent issue with this basketball team. This is not really a coaching issue with this basketball team. Archie Miller's proven he can coach at this level. It's just a communication and a come to Jesus thing together for this team. So when this team doesn't, go finish your talk, then I'll talk. I'm writing notes right now. Go ahead.
Yeah,
ramble on.
The issue is between the ears right now with these guys. I mean, you could see when Rutgers went on that run, Indiana was. I mean, Archie used 2 words after the Michigan game to describe the team, and it was soft and scared. And you hate to say it, but that's what it is. You know, Rutgers punched them in the mouth, and instead of Indiana responding, they looked scared. They looked like, oh, here we go again, like they knew what was coming. You know, I mean, that's what the issues between the ears. I don't think it's an effort issue. I thought the effort was better, especially early on. You saw them, you know, diving for loose balls. There were effort plays all game long. I don't think it's an effort issue. But, you know, they're not a very resilient team. You know, when they get punched in the mouth, they panic. And you know, I think, like Steve said, they're not communicating. I think they kind of can get, you know, there's no leader that's pulling everyone together and calming them all down and getting them back on track. No one's taking that role, you know, on this team. And it's like, the announcers talked about it all game long. It's a good point. I mean, look at the bench. The bench tells the whole story. When you look at Rutgers' bench, it's, energetic all game long. Our bench is pretty much non-existent. There's no energy. Yeah, I think that pretty much summarizes the issues with this team. I mean, when we get hit in the mouth, we panic and we look scared. We don't fight back.
Steve?
I'm only speaking when I'm asked a question.
Okay, because what are you, 5? I mean, the thing is this. We came down here, and you told Cole, go ahead and talk. I'm writing some note downs, and then I'll finish what I'm saying. So I waited on you. I thought you'd have something to say. Sorry. But my question is this.
I'll say this.
They don't have the players to win in the Big Ten. They don't have but
I
one
disagree.
post player.
I disagree.
They've got one post player, Steve. One.
Yeah, I'll say this. This team has individual talent. In terms of the individual players, I don't think the team is built well, though. They don't complement each other from a talent perspective. They lack outside shooters. They have guys that can finish. They have no outside shooting. They have no size, partly because Deron Davis is out, but they have no one that can consistently grab rebounds. They have no one that can consistently defend the post. So, yes, this team has talent, but they also have glaring weaknesses that they don't have someone that can fill that role.
Yeah,
so,
and with
from
only
a talent
one,
perspective,
that one is almost always in foul trouble because he's expected to guard everybody in the damn post.
Yeah, and that Juwan Morgan is not a center. I mean,
No.
He's playing that role because we have no one else that can play that role. But it's just, so yeah, I agree. The team has talent, but the talent doesn't complement each other. They don't have shooters. They don't have size on the inside, and that's been our downfall all year long.
All right, so when we look at this, they've got Michigan State next at Michigan State. The schedule clears up. You got more home games after that. Is there any chance here, Steve?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of chance. I just think they need to. I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm just too old school for this world anymore because I don't feel. Again, I want to say again for the 10th time on the show, I'm not pissing on Archie Miller. I'm not pissing on the players. There's no sense of pride that I see. There's no sense of the name on the front of your jersey is more important than the name on the back of your jersey. The whole tradition and culture of Indiana basketball being Indiana basketball has eroded away. And Mike, you brought that up, and it's been 19 years since 2000, and that house should have been rebuilt at some point in time. So where do you look to find that fault? I don't know. I just don't see a good mesh right now between the coaching staff, between the players' desire and will to win. But it's very. I mean, I was hoping this would be a game where we would spot on and click, and we would change our culture overnight a little bit and give ourselves a little more confidence. It's a total confidence thing here. We're playing not to lose, and we're losing. We're not playing to win games, in my opinion. And I don't like the whole theory about, poor shooting this because champions find a way. I mean, they grind things out. And like I said, you said, how do you win when you're shooting 30%? You hold the other team to 25% with great defense.
Well,
we don't play great defense.
We don't have the ability to play great defense because we don't have any defensive players in the post. You've got one big guy. If you play a team that traditionally has a center and 2 forwards, you're screwed. Unless, and this is what I think they should have done all along, I think they should use the entire bench, and I think they should press the hell out of everybody. I mean, if your weakness is playing in the low post, well, why are we trying to play in the low post? Why wouldn't we just attack people? Full court, 3/4 court, give them different looks, and do something different. That's what I would do. I mean, if you don't have post players, but you got a ton of guards, why not play to your own strength?
Yeah, I think it's a cultural issue for this basketball program. It's not a talent issue. It's not a coaching issue. It's just a cultural issue that they have not figured out yet. And that can be resolved faster than saying, we just don't have the talent to play. I get what you're saying, Cole, about, Juwan's in the wrong position, but he's damn good at what he does. And he scored what? How many did he have tonight? He had 15 points.
15.
Yeah, 15, 5 of 13, 7 rebounds. I mean, he had another stalwart night for what he's up against every night, knowing the fact that we're going to pack it in on him because we end up being 6 for 23 from the three-point line. So they're going to pack it on him. I think that's a monumental night for him. Langford comes up to the occasion. Langford finally, I'm thrilled to death that Langford put up 20 shots tonight. That's something he's got to do. He has to have 20 shots every game. Our turnovers, 11 turnovers is not unmanageable. That's not unmanageable. It's just a cultural thing with this team that I don't think that they quite. I don't get, Mike. I don't get the impression this team's having any fun. Do you get that impression?
No, because you've got a bunch of kids that were not prepared. The pieces to the puzzle are not there. I mean, I'm telling you, you're missing pieces still. Last year there were missing a lot of pieces. But when you're missing pieces, and especially playing in a conference like the Big Ten where there's no easy games, especially when you're going on the road, it makes it really hard to be successful. I think we're going to learn a lot about this team against Michigan State because I thought I did see more effort tonight. I thought I did see the bench react more on the sidelines. They looked like they were more into the game. And the question to me is, do they go to Michigan State, bend over and take it, or do they stand up and fight? If they stand up and fight Michigan State, the rest of the schedule is predominantly at home, and you could end up with 18 or 19 wins and maybe slip into the tournament. But if they come out and Michigan State beats them 76-45, this is over. You just stick a fork in it. Because this team right now is so beaten down that I think if I'm coaching this team and I'm Archie Miller, I'm not browbeating them. I'm not going to have a hell day or anything like that.
You can't browbeat him anymore.
What I'm going to do is this. I'm going to come in, and we're going to watch the film of the first 10, 15 minutes of the game. We're going to watch the last 5 minutes of the game. And the thing I'm going to beat into their heads is this. We caused turnovers in the last 2 minutes that gave us shots where we could have had a chance to win the game. We didn't make them. We're getting better. We're going to Michigan State. Nobody expects us to have a chance to win this game. Nobody outside of this locker room believes in us, including our own fans. But if you come out and you put up a great effort against Michigan State and you win that game, these last 7 weeks are forgotten because you know how fans are, or the last 7 games, you know how fans are. You beat Michigan State, one of the top teams in the country, on the road, you've just fixed everything right there, at least in the fans' eyes until the next game if you lose Iowa. But that's what I push here. And if this team comes out and gets their ass kicked again, this is going to steamroll where this team's not even going to find itself in the NIT.
All right, I got a series of questions for you, Mike. Here, let me write them down. Hang on, are we okay? First off, in terms of some things, you talked earlier in the show about we need to recruit more Indiana high school players to play in our program, right? You mentioned that somewhere
Yes.
in your vernacular.
Yes.
How many Indiana players does Kentucky, Duke, Tennessee? We know Virginia's got one. How many Indiana players do those kids have on their team?
I could not tell you that. Can you tell me?
Yeah. No, I can only think of Kyle Guy.
Yeah, but you know what?
Other than that, I don't know of any other Indiana player.
Kyle Guy, no matter.
And UCLA's Keith Wilkes, who is probably arguably one of the better guards or small forwards in the college basketball ranks right now, will end up being an NBA player. But other than that, I don't really know.
Yeah, but other
of any
than
other
that,
great
you just
Indiana
named
players.
2 kids
that
should have been here. And those are 2 pretty big gets. No matter what you think of Kyle Guy, he's a good basketball player.
That's no fault of Archie Miller.
I know.
He was not here when they were
but
kids
that
were
is
recruited.
the culture
So
that he
what
is
I'm saying,
fighting.
the whole culture, the whole thing about the Indiana thing is numbskull. We love to have our guys because we feel better about our guys. It makes the fans feel better. But truthfully, I just want talent. I don't care that Juwan Morgan is from Waynesville, Missouri, which is where I was born. You know, I don't care where he's from. I don't care Romeo Langford. He's an Indiana boy. Probably grew up more in Louisville than in Jeffersonville, but he's from Jeffersonville. He played most of his AAU ball in Louisville. So it doesn't matter to me where they're from. I just want guys that come here and understand the culture and tradition of Indiana basketball and what it means to be a Hoosier and what's on your shoulders when you put that uniform on. That's one. Two, yeah, I think the effort was much better tonight. But until this team can sustain that effort for the better part of 40 minutes, we're going to have what happened tonight. We played well. We commanded a 10-point lead. We were in the early part of the game. We were in control of the game. We were dictating the tempo, the pace, everything. And then we just seemed to fall apart for an unknown reason. In all my notes, 2 pages of notes here, I cannot pinpoint where and why and when we fell apart. Cole, did you see a point in time when we just fell apart?
You know, it's a run in the first half. I mean, I forget
the first
what
half,
exact timestamp it was. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it was when
I believe
they went on a 9-0 run, right? I believe it was a 9-0 run to end the half.
Yeah, it ended up being 22
by Rutgers. Yeah. So, I mean, that's what
and they should have had the lead.
Hit.
They really should have had the lead.
Yeah, no, they should have. I mean, Indiana, they just get hit in the mouth. And like you said, for whatever reason, they don't fight back. They get scared and, you know, they fall apart. I mean, that's exactly what I can't figure it out. Yeah. It's probably a mental thing more than it is anything else. And, you know, I can't pinpoint why it's happening. Obviously, the team is lacking confidence right now. And, you know, when they get punched in the mouth, they get scared. And, you know, when you're already having confidence issues, it's not the reaction you need.
And then the question I would have for you, Mike, on top of that is yeah, I see effort, but is there effort with a purpose? I mean, do you sense that there's effort with a purpose, or is it just effort? Because effort, beating your head against a brick wall, 1,000 times is not going to necessarily knock the brick wall down. Well, I mean, do you see a purpose in what this team is doing?
To your first question real quick, there's 141 Indiana high school players playing Division I college basketball. And there are some big men here that would help IU, and that's not Archie Miller's fault. But if you recruit Indiana, you will be really good. That is what Bobby Knight
Most
did.
likely, yes. Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got to recruit those. The effort with the purpose, I think there is a purpose with the effort. I think when they get pushback, I think they forget the purpose. So this is the thing. If you go into a game and you have a certain game plan and you come out and the game is going well, it's real easy to stick with your game plan. But if you go out and as soon as something goes wrong, everybody panics, you just lost your purpose. And when you lose your purpose, because I don't think you can have effort without purpose, not true effort. I think you had true effort until those last few minutes in that 22-0 run. I think the effort was gone then because it's hard to have effort when you're scrambling trying to figure out what the hell you're supposed to be doing.
Okay, Cole or Mike, either one wants to step up. I'll ask this question. How much of the fault do you put in this on I keep hearing that they think we're having good defensive efforts. I personally think our defense stinks out the yin-yang. We don't shut off passing lanes. We don't shut off driving lanes. We don't block out well. Am I just missing something? Because that's what was drilled into my head 30 years, 40 years ago. And am I just not seeing it that way, or I'm not seeing the defensive purpose? We hustle on defense, and we'll die for a loose ball occasionally. But are we playing defense with a purpose? Like we have a mission here to keep the lane clear, to not anybody penetrate, to block out, only give them one attempt at this shot, and then get the rebound and transition back into our offense. Am I missing the boat here entirely? Mike, Cole, talk up.
Go ahead, Cole.
Yeah, I mean, our defensive rotations are really bad too. That's another thing. You know, when we get there, and I don't know if it's on the guy that's supposed to rotate or what the defensive issue is there, but there's a lot of guys that are overhelping, and our rotation guys slow to get over and recover and help, and they're getting easy buckets that way. You know, I think we've talked about it a lot too. We let teams get into sets, you know, with pretty much no resistance at all. And especially when we have no size, you know, teams can enter the ball down low pretty much without much trouble. You know, it's kind of like offensively, it's a similar issue where we have stretches where we play really good defense. Then we have stretches where we play really bad defense. You know, I thought the first 10 minutes of the game, not only were we good offensively, we were very good defensively. I thought we were harassing passing lanes. We were making it tough on Rutgers. We were making them work for every point they got. And then we started kind of falling asleep on rotations. You know, the help man was slow to come over and help. And they pretty much picked our defense apart there for a lot of that middle part of the game. And then I thought we got better towards the end. It's like a lot of things with this team. We're very inconsistent on that front. I wouldn't say we're great defensively. We're putting forth a good effort. You know, I think the effort's there, but no, I don't think the end result is good right now.
Yeah, and
Mike?
My take on that is this, Steve. I don't think teams shoot the ball as well as they used to. And I think a lot of times, if any more people just consider you're playing good defense if you hold a team mid-60s and lower. And what they're missing is, I mean, Rutgers just doesn't shoot the ball that well. I mean,
no. Well,
Rutgers
can I interject real quick?
Yeah.
Wait, can I give us what I just
Put it
wrote
like
down?
this. Look what Purdue did
down.
to us. Purdue could shoot.
No, I wrote down. I just want to tell you while Cole was talking, I wrote this down. Then Mike, go on. Our best defensive efforts when our opponents have their worst offensive efforts.
Yes,
that's what I took away from this.
Yeah,
So go ahead now. That's my comment.
Yeah, I agree completely with that.
When our opponents had their worst offensive efforts. So go ahead.
Yeah, because when you look at a team like Purdue, who's got a couple guys that can shoot the ball, well, we weren't giving up 60 points then, and I think that's what you get. I think the Big Ten, you don't have a lot of great offensive teams here. When you play a Michigan that can shoot the ball,
no, you're right.
You're giving up 76 points. So when you're playing the Michigans and Purdue's that can shoot the ball, that defense don't look so good. So, you know, we don't cover the passing lanes. And see, the other thing is this. I talked about the effort was great. I don't care about that because effort is supposed to be great. Effort is the one thing that you can control. You know, it's like when my son comes off a football field, either one of them, they come up and they say, well, I tried to block that guy. Well, I don't give two shits what you tried to do. You're supposed to try. You only get rewarded if you succeed. Now, my whole point with Archie Miller is this. I don't think he's the type of coach, the way he coaches, when you watch these Dayton teams, took a few years for them to get pretty decent. I think he wants to have a certain type of player. And my fear is if he doesn't get those certain types of players, he will not adjust the way he plays. He's the kind of coach that tries to pick out players to fit the system, and that's fine, but that's going to take 3 or 4 years. A guy like Chris Mack is going to come in, and he is going to take the players he's got, and he's going to coach to their strengths. I think that is the big difference between Archie Miller and Chris Mack. Now, I think if Archie Miller gets a chance to get 2 more years, and then all of a sudden you've got a culture, because Archie's culture takes longer to build than Chris Mack's. And Chris Mack does it the way you're supposed to do it. You know, you're not supposed to come in and try to make, you know, round pegs fit in square slots, if you know what I mean. So I think that Archie is trying to make guys play in a way that is not conducive to what they are capable of or the way that they're used to playing, if that makes any sense. So when I say you got to give him a chance,
very much sense.
When
I don't. I'm not advocating Archie Miller getting fired at all.
Well, see, this is the thing.
I think you need to give him 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
You got to let me finish this because I think that's not a good coach.
Sorry.
It's not a good coach. I mean, a good coach comes in, he takes what's available, and he turns it into a team. and he is flexible enough to let them play his way. And I know we've had this conversation before, but you talk about it doesn't look like his assistant coaches really get to coach much. And that's because Archie wants everything done exactly the way he wants it done. And that's fine to an extent, but at some point there has to be some other ideas there. And those coaches don't look like they give him a lot of help during a game. You talked about how you don't see him really coaching the players during the game, but the thing that stands out to me is I very rarely see an assistant coach for IU say anything to Archie. You might get when they're drawing up a play, but during the game, you don't see somebody lean over his ear and say, hey, maybe we should do this, because I don't think Archie's very flexible that way. So when you're looking at it, you're looking at the coaches not coaching the players, but as a head coach, if you don't have anybody you trust to tell you you're screwing something up, you're not a very good coach, because you want people that are really good coaches. And Steve, as we've had these NFL players or NFL coaches, NFL players, and they talk about the coaching staffs they played for, how many times do we have a guy that doesn't even talk as much about the head coach as he does his position coach or his
assistant coaches?
Yeah.
Right. Position coaches, right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
agreed.
We have Don Horn on.
I talk about,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and you talk about Joby Wright.
Joby Wright. I mean, I spent more time with Joby Wright than I ever spent with Bob Knight. I mean, and I was better friends with Joby Wright, and not friends in the sense of it wasn't a friendship. It was just I knew he was going to make me a better player so I could play better in Knight's system. And I trusted that entirely. So, yeah, I get what you're saying. It's a great comment, Mike, and a great point. Mike, let me ask you this question. Again, I'm writing more notes here. Does Indiana need to bring, I hate to say this, because, and please don't take it the wrong way, does Indiana need to bring a Knight former player on to kind of breathe some of that culture back into it? Just not.
No, this is the
Knight
thing,
culture.
though. You can't.
I mean, am I off base here? Big time.
Yeah, because this is the thing. I know where you're going with it.
Fair.
But the thing is this. That's old culture. You know, that's been done. What I would do with these guys, I would bring, and we had this conversation off air, I would bring in an Isaiah Thomas, a Mike Woodson, a Steve Risley, and just have them come in and say, hey, this is what Indiana basketball means. Because I don't know that Archie Miller, where's Archie from? Not Indiana. I think he played at Pitt, right? He was a point guard at Pitt.
He's from Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania.
He was a great point guard at Pitt. I mean, he's a
North
guy.
Carolina State.
Was it? I thought he was at Pitt.
NC State.
Was it? Okay, but he was a dude that went after it. But
NC
I don't
State.
know. I think that he needs to incorporate these guys, and he needs to bring them in. I don't think they necessarily need to be an assistant coach. And, you know, I get sick of Dan Dockich's crap. Dan Dockich is still pissed off he didn't get the head coaching job. Let's face it. That's all that is.
That's his motivation. I agree.
The way Dan Dockich talks about the game, he is a really good analyst, I think, on ESPN. But what people don't realize
Very
is this,
good.
You could sit here and you could watch basketball, you could play basketball, you could watch baseball, you can play baseball forever, but it doesn't mean you understand how to coach a team. I mean, you just don't. If you're sitting there in Bedford, Indiana, saying, man, well, they should do this and they should do that, and you've never coached a team above your son's peewee team or a junior high team, shut the hell up, because you have no clue what goes into it. You don't know what it's like to start a season 0-2 and have, you know, big newspapers saying, man, this dude needs to be fired. You just don't. So it's a little bit more difficult than what people think. And that's what I'm saying. I completely disagree with the way Archie is doing this, but I see and understand how and why he's doing it. I don't understand it, but I'm telling you this. I think with what he does, he is very good at that. All right? And just because I don't agree with it, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and people just got to understand the way he's doing this, it's going to take more than 1 or 2 years, And this is not 1976. It's not 1981. It's not 1987. And let's face it, from 1995 to 2000 under Knight, this is pretty much what we had, Steve. I mean, it was a team that won 18 to 20 games.
Yeah.
They get knocked out in the first round. So everybody needs to shut up and chill out, and let's see what happens, because it can't get any worse as an Indiana fan because we expect so much. So you could keep expecting that, but you're not going to get that ever again probably, because how many programs are like that now? Today we have Duke, and we have Kentucky, maybe Villanova, Michigan State, Gonzaga. So out of 316, 320, whatever it is, Division I basketball schools, there's 5 schools that expect that. Now, if you think back to when you played, Steve, you throw in the North Carolinas, UCLA even at that time, there was probably 15 schools like that. And that's because the scholarships, not everybody got great players. Now, you get a school like Rutgers. Rutgers is getting pretty good players. That's not a bad team. They play really hard, and that coach has been there 2 or 3 years, and that coach kind of is like Archie Miller, where he's trying to get his own players to play his way instead of fitting what they can do. And they are getting better. They've won 3 straight in the Big Ten. 5 games ago, they beat Ohio State. So there's more to one way to skin a cat. This is the way he's choosing to do it. And let's face it, who the hell is going to replace him if you fire him right now? I mean, Steve Alford failed at UCLA. He failed at Iowa. He was successful at New Mexico. So that tells me if you put him in a mid-major program, he could be really successful because he's a good recruiter and he's an all right coach. But if you put him in the Pac-12, you put him in the Big Ten, he has problems. So Steve Alford's not the answer. I mean, Randy Whitman was a solid NBA coach, but I mean, there's all kind of guys out there you could bring in, but how many of them would you really have the confidence could get it done that would come take this job right now? Because the other thing is, they talked the other day about recruits that may not want to come here now because of the way your fans are acting. Hell, it might scare some guys off that you want to be that head coach too.
Yeah, Mike, it's great. It's great. That's a great point. It's a great conversation, and I fully agree with you. I guess the question, and Cole, I got a question for you coming up here real quick. And either one of you answer this. Am I the only one who sees just a pathetically poor defensive principle and effort on this basketball team? Am I just so over gilded and jaded based on how we played defense and what we did to manhandle people when we couldn't score, when we weren't shooting well, and how we forced other teams out of what they were doing worse than we were not doing what we were doing? I don't see that ability or that coaching into this team at all. Am I just missing something here? Or am I right in saying that and saying, let's get somebody in here, be it a Knight disciple, or somebody that a defensive-minded person, because I don't think this team even knows how to spell defense, let alone play it. Yet I hear commentators say it's a great defensive front by IU. You guys talk about that. I see nothing but piss-poor defense, which is the root of all evil for Indiana basketball right now. Good. Am I wrong?
But that's supposed to be what Archie hangs his hat on too, is the defensive side of the court.
Well, yeah, that's what he hangs on a date. Yeah, they're a physical, tough team.
Yeah. It's driving me insane how many times I watch us during the game overhelp and just fall asleep on shooters. I mean, it's like what we talk about, especially Purdue. I mean, you saw it against Purdue, how many times we just fall asleep and overhelp on shooters and they kill us. I think Harper Jr. in the first half hit a couple big threes where we just fell asleep. It's kind of what I talked about. We have a tendency to overhelp at times. And I think the big thing, and it kind of goes back to what Mike was saying, is it's a lot of the same mistakes that Archie is not going to adjust or change the defense. And that's kind of the issue with him is he's going to keep going with his defense. And if our guys are struggling to understand it, he's not going to change the defense. He's going to keep going with his defense. So, I mean, I don't really know what to do at this point other than the players have got to – I don't know if it's a scheme issue or if the players just aren't understanding. I can't figure it out.
All right, so once again here we chalk it up as another developmental year. The last 19 years have been developmental years for IU basketball.
Okay,
right, Mike?
Wait a second. Yeah, but Archie Miller had nothing to do with any of those, just the last two. And the thing is this.
No, he didn't, but
Dayton,
he's 2 years into this now.
Okay,
Chris Mack goes to Louisville and starts winning immediately.
Once again, different coaches, different styles. It's a lot easier to get in somebody's face than it is to play defense the way that Archie wants to. And this is the timeline of what Dayton did when they hired Archie Miller is this. Their first year, defensively they were terrible. And I'm looking at articles right now from the Dayton Daily News where fans are writing in bitching because we're supposed to have a defensive guru as a coach and we're giving up 76 points a game. That first year, they go 20-13. They lose in the first round of the NIT. He signs a couple kids. The next year, 2012, defense still sucks. But he signs 3 guys. 2 of them are post players. And they ended up being the backbone of the winningest class in school history. Now, Dayton has a great history. I mean, they played the National Final Four against UCLA, I think, back in 1965, 66. So it's not like it's a bum program. 2013, with those same kids, they start off the season rough. Okay? They fail to make a postseason. They're 17-14. We get to 2014. Then we got a team that goes to the Elite Eight and wins 26 games. And in year 4, every one of those kids is one of his kids, and Dayton is in the top 10 in defense in the nation. So then from there, the other thing I liked about him was this. 2014, he dismissed his 2 best players in December. Left him with a 7-man roster for the rest of the season. They go 27-9, make it to the Sweet 16. This is what he did after you get to year 4, and they're all his players. 2016, they make another run. They lose in the first round of the tournament to Wichita State by 5 or 6 points. So I think what I see here, and I didn't realize this until we started talking about it tonight, Steve, and they were great questions. He is the kind of coach that wants his kind of players. He wants to play the way he wants to play no matter what. So I would say with that being said,
I love that. I love hearing that. I
would say,
because I believe in Archie Miller. I'm 100% behind him.
I mean, I watched what he did in Dayton, and the thing is this, Steve. I grew up same time you did. You're just 100 years older than me, but no, you're like 10 years older than me. I remember watching the first Indiana basketball I remember watching was in 1975. I grew up, all I knew was my team won. And when I watch this, it pisses me off too, because that's what I expect. But see, the other thing is this. I didn't sit through 19 years of bad basketball because when Bobby Knight was let go, I cheered for Texas Tech. I cheered for Xavier. I like Chris Mack. I like the way he played. I really like Archie Miller. When they brought him back, I thought, all right, because I'm from Indiana. I love the Indiana Hoosiers. I remember sitting there in tears when they won the national championship in '81 when you guys won it. And it was just because I knew then something told me that I was going to see a picture of your freaking ring a few years later. So when I look at this, I think the expectation of Indiana basketball fans are way higher than what they should be. Now, if you can bring those expectations down and just sit back and let Archie Miller work with this team, 10 years from now, maybe our expectations will be what they used to be. Because Rome wasn't built in a day. Yeah. The culture of a team is not usually built in a day either. And, I mean, Chris Mack is an entirely different breed than Archie Miller. I know Chris Mack. I've sat at his practices. I've talked to him. Chris Mack is a guy that goes after it at all times. I have not had that experience with Archie. I have been to games at UD Arena where he coached. and the difference between the two is huge. Now, with that being said, maybe this is the best way to build this Indiana program. I mean, I don't agree with it, but
it is the way. It is the way to build the program. It is the way to build the program.
He's what? He's 38, 40 years old. I mean, like Knight, he could be here for the next 20 or 30 years. And if you remember Mike Krzyzewski is a guy that always played the same way, just like Knight did. Knight always played the same way also. And Krzyzewski, when he went to Duke in 1981, 81, 82, 80, I think the first 3 years, no tournaments, they were getting ready to fire his ass. And then all of a sudden, in the fourth year, when it was all his recruits, they're in the NCAA tournament. 2 years after that, they're in the Final Four playing for a national championship against Louisville. So the way Archie Miller is doing this has worked out before, and Duke was a program that was not on the level of Indiana when Knight was here, but Duke was still a pretty damn good program when he got there, and it drove all those people nuts. But you know what? 30 years later, he's still the head coach there, and they've got 5 banners because of it.
Yeah, Mike, and I agree with you 100%. Cole, jump in here at any time. I agree with you. I just see basic fundamental flaws that any coach should be able to work out of a team in a course of practice. You don't have to have your own culture and your own talent in place. There are just fundamental flaws in this basketball team that they don't do on a consistent basis that drive me crazy. And again, I started the show off by saying I don't want to diss on Archie. I don't want to diss on the players. I diss on the culture. I just see fundamental flaws that, like, why are we not fixing this, which is a very fixable thing? I mean, I feel as though I could go in there tomorrow, or any player who played in between the 76 and 87 era, and could show them defensive principles that would alter the outcome of games, not without having to shoot 50% or 40% from three-point line, but could alter the game defensively in different eras, in different arenas. I just don't see that happening. And I put a lot of that on the assistant coaches because they need to be seeing that too. It's not. Am I right or wrong there? Or
you're wrong, because this is the thing.
I'm wrong. Okay.
You can't ever, because who hired the assistant coaches?
I guess Archie did.
Yeah. So everything goes back to Archie. But I'm telling you this: if they give him a couple of years, you will have what you want. And
he's got a lifetime for me. He's our last coach I want to see coach IU.
Another thing too on the Archie Miller, Chris Mack front. It's probably a little bit different adjustment period, too, when you're at Louisville with Rick Pitino, who has a winning culture established there. Those players have been a part of a winning culture ever since they've been there, versus Archie Miller coming in.
Fair.
And Tom Green had very up and down years. You know, they had great teams some years, down years. Yeah. So, I mean, there's probably a little bit of an adjustment period there.
Yeah,
Very fair. Very fair,
been
Cole.
a lot of down period. There hasn't been a huge down period for Louisville, if there has been one since
Mike,
1973 or 4.
Yeah.
I wrote this question down about 15 minutes ago, and I'm going to ask you this question, Mike. 10 years from now, where do you see Chris Mack and where do you see Archie Miller?
I see Chris Mack at Louisville, Archie Miller at IU, and they've probably played the national championship game against each other.
Really? You don't see Chris Mack as an opportunist who'll go the
no, Chris Mack turned
what's
down
the Boston coach? What's Brad Stevens' way?
No, Chris Mack turned down many opportunities for bigger programs, even in Louisville, from what I was told. And the reason is Chris Mack's family loves this area. I don't know why, because it's cold as hell, but because of that, he always stayed. He got the shot at Louisville. It's an ACC job. It was like 60 miles south. He took the job. I think Louisville is going to have Chris Mack for a long time.
I see Archie Miller at Indiana for a long time, too.
Yeah, and I don't see Chris Mack, especially with the style that he likes to play, I don't really see that. Archie Miller would probably be able to convert to an NBA coach before Chris Mack. Because as soon as Chris Mack rolls out the blocking dummies on the court, and tells everybody to start diving for balls, everybody's quitting.
Quitting. NBA says, no. My contract says I don't have to do that.
Yeah, we're not doing that, Coach. Try something else. Let's go watch a movie. We're not
doing that exactly.
Yeah.
All right, Cole, Michigan. Who's our next game? Is it Michigan State?
At Michigan State, yeah.
Cole, what do we got to do? If you do the pregame, you do the postgame. I'm sure you'll have a postgame up on tonight, and
Yeah.
What do we got? Do we have any chance to beat? Do we have any chance to beat Michigan State at Michigan State? Really seriously?
The way we're playing right now. I mean, I'm not the way we're playing right now. No, not at all. I mean, obviously Michigan State just lost, one of their best players. So I mean, who knows how they're going to deal with that? But I mean, listen, Michigan State is a much better team than IU is right now. I mean, there's no other way around that. I want to see this team play with some confidence. Go in there and show some fight. Don't get down by 20 and give up and look scared. Go in there and give them a game. I don't think that's a game we as fans should be expecting them to win. That's even if this team was great and playing great basketball, that's a tough game to win. At Michigan State. So, I just want to see the team get better, and that doesn't necessarily require beating Michigan State to get better. But never say never. I mean, basketball's it's a funny game. Sometimes upsets happen, so I don't want to say they have no shot, but it would be a big upset.
Mike, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Mike, are you still here?
Yeah, I said sure.
Okay. Does this team have a legitimate chance to still play the dance?
Maybe.
Or are they scraping now?
I would say this. Honestly, I would say no. Because the way they're playing, you cannot say yes. I mean, they're losing 7 games in a row right now. And Iowa, Ohio State all come here. But Nebraska came here, beat the hell out of Indiana, and then went on a losing streak. So I would say realistically, no. But I will also say this. I think the wild card in this could be somebody like Demazie Anderson. Because I think the kid on the defensive end played better than I've seen him play because that was the hindrance before. If he could just make a 3 at one point. If he hits a shot or two and gets a little bit of confidence, that could give him a chance. Plus the fact that you've got Romeo and you got Jawan. And if either one of them ever decides to just step up and say, guys, jump on my back, those guys are good enough players, great enough talents, that they could drag this team with them. And if anybody does that, I think they both could do it. Because Jawan Morgan has got to be coming to the realization that this is it. I'm not going to get another chance at this. And I thought we saw him and Romeo play better tonight. If they'd have shot the ball a little bit better, Indiana wins the game. So I think there's a chance. I don't think it's a great chance. But I do expect at one point for them to try to drag this team on their backs. I would have thought this would have happened, many games ago. So, because it's been so long.
All right.
I don't know.
And another thing, too, talking about their tournament chances, they've got to play better. But looking at their schedule, they have home games against Purdue, Michigan State, and Wisconsin left.
Yeah.
Those are all 3 top 25 teams.
Yeah.
So, the way they're playing right now, they're not going to win any of them.
Quadrant wins.
If they can get better, yeah. But if they can get better, those are home
they
games.
have a chance.
Yeah, this
they
is the
can play
thing.
themselves
If they end up 18
they control their own destiny. They control their own destiny.
Yeah, if they were to go 18-13, they're probably getting in because that means they probably won at least 2 of those games at home. You combine that with the Marquette and the Louisville wins, which are, a top 15 and a top 10
You got 5 good
now.
quadrant 1 wins.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
that
why
gets you in the tournament.
That's why I won't rule it out completely because I also
I'm not
think
ruling it out at all.
with a young team, they could lose every game on the road, but all of a sudden come home their next home game against Iowa, play lights out, and then, how many times we've seen a young team in any sport that can beat anybody at home, but lose to pretty much everybody on the road. So I think there's still some hope. I just don't have a lot of it.
Well, I think there's more than some hope. I think Indiana controls its own destiny. I just think they've got to step up and win the games they've got to win. And this is a game they needed to win tonight. They needed to win this game tonight.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to be pretty no matter how they won it. Just get the win, get the W in the column, and move on, and get some kind of momentum building. But this was a more detrimental loss than it would have been a good win, in my opinion. It hurts us more to lose than it would have helped us to win, in my opinion. So that's fine.
Oh, with that.
Okay, one last question to you. One last question to you guys. What is the deal with Clifton Moore? This guy's 6'10", 230. He looks like he makes contributions when he plays. Why is he not getting more minutes? Cole, you're at the games. Mike, you're a good coach. You understand effort and commitment and contribution. Why is Clifton Moore not playing more for this basketball team?
I've been saying that for weeks.
Yeah. I think he needs to play. I'm not at practice. I have no idea.
You got, 3 minutes tonight?
What he sees at practice.
You got 3 minutes tonight.
I don't care what a player does in practice.
Yeah.
I don't. I care what he does in the game.
And this is a team that's begging for a big man to step
And I agree, Mike. Entirely.
I mean, I'll tell you, I've coached guys that were, horrendous. Hell, my youngest son is a horrendous practice player. Doesn't want to be there. Loves the games. But when the game starts, he's one of my two best linemen. So I let it go in practice. I don't care because there's some people. And see, the thing is this. Football, you're an offensive lineman. If you're mean as crap, which he is, you don't really need to prepare. You just go out and hit somebody. And, if Clifton Moore could just be mean as hell and go out and hit somebody, we may have something.
So maybe if you bring a Steve Risley down to practice for a couple of days and teach Clifton Moore how to be mean as hell and hit somebody, and Steve Risley's a metaphor for
I'd say we'd
a
probably
number
need
of players
younger
who played in
version
Indiana.
Who could, run and
right,
stuff
sure,
to show him.
Right, yeah. I said it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor for somebody who just understood the physicality
Risley,
of the game
a Brian
and how you could
Sloan,
use it
a
to
Steve
intimidate.
Isle,
Brian Sloan,
Bobby Knight always had
guys
at least one of those guys.
Yeah, all the time. Brian Evans. I mean, your guys just would be mean, and they were mean-spirited people, and they were good people, just mean-spirited people. And I don't. Again, but then to me that falls back on Archie Miller. Is why are we not doing this? So whatever. Let's
wrap it up.
Close it up, Mike, because I think we're beating a dead horse.
Because
right
you told
now.
me this was only going to last 10 minutes, and it's been an hour.
I know. I thought it was. Well, because I give a damn. I give a damn about this program. I give a damn about the heritage and tradition of Indiana basketball. I know everybody that comes in afterward, has expectations, and there's a responsibility at some point to live up and meet those expectations. For various reasons, right or wrong.
The problem is,
not all
it's
right,
been
not all wrong.
2 decades since anybody has come in and done that.
Which
makes it so
frustrating. And that's the converse of the whole problem. Exactly. It's been 2 decades since that's happened, so be it.
All right, guys. I want to remind you can catch me and Steve Risley on Survive in Advance tomorrow with former Pittsburgh Steeler legendary linebacker Levon Kirkland to talk a little bit about Super Bowl 30. On Friday, we'll have Notre Dame and Pittsburgh Steeler legend Brocky Blyer on to talk about his Super Bowl experiences. So make sure you check us out at noon every day on Survive in Advance. You can follow Steve Risley at srisley34. You can follow Collin Hartman at Collin Hartman30. And you can follow Cole at Cole Hanna. What was the number?
5.
5.
Cole Hanna 5, yeah.
Cole Hanna 5. That's a lot smoother than srisley34, by the way. But
no doubt.
Also, tomorrow night, Friday night, we'll have some special guests for our Super Bowl preview show on thegrizzlytruth.net. That will include me, Steve, and a couple surprise guests. So make sure you check us out there. Make sure you check out all of Cole's writings on The Grilling Truth at thegrizzlytruth.net. And you can follow us at Twitter at Grueling Truth. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. We will be back after, is that Saturday's game against Michigan State?
6 p.m. Eastern Time.
6
We'll be on
p.m.
about 9 o'clock.
Yep, and hopefully
8:30 to 9 o'clock.
we'll have a huge.
We're talking trash.
Hopefully there'll be a huge.
Yeah, we'll have a huge upset. And we're talking smack. Yeah, we're talking smack.
But,
not Chris
all right.
Smack. We're talking smack.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll be talking Chris Smack Saturday night after Indiana wins the game against Michigan State, hopefully. Everybody say your prayers. All right, so remember, you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for not Collin Hartman, because he's in New Jersey and has T-Mobile, which sucks for service, but if they want to be our sponsor, I could change my mind. Cole Hanna, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.